Hello everyone, my name is Tom. Today I want to take some time to speak to myself and reflect on something I have struggled with for a long time, and that is confidence. I have always wanted to feel stronger, braver, more certain in my daily life. I know that many people feel the same way. I used to wake up every morning with ideas and plans, but inside, I felt unsure. I felt hesitant. I questioned myself constantly about whether I was good enough, whether I could do the things I wanted to do, whether people would judge me. These questions repeated in my head like a song I could not stop. They were loud, persistent, and often exhausting. I remember standing in front of the mirror asking myself simple questions like, can I really speak clearly today? Can I really do this meeting? Can I really handle this conversation? Even though I knew I had done things before, I still doubted myself. Confidence does not come automatically. Confidence is not something you are born with. It is something you develop every single day. I realized that if I wanted to change my life, if I wanted to feel stronger, I had to face these thoughts. I had to confront my fears. I had to be willing to take action, even when I felt scared and uncertain. Today, I want to reflect on how I started building confidence in my daily life, what I learned from it, what worked, what failed, and how I can continue growing. I want to be completely honest with myself about everything because that is the only way to really improve, the way to really grow. The first step is always awareness. Noticing the moments when I feel insecure or uncertain, noticing when my thoughts are holding me back, noticing when my mind is creating fears and doubts that are not entirely real. When I pay attention to these moments, I start to see patterns. I see the times when I give myself excuses, the times when I hesitate for no reason, the times when I stop myself from doing something that could actually help me grow. Once I start seeing these patterns, I can start to change them. I can start taking small actions that slowly build confidence in a very natural way. I began with very small steps. I started paying attention to my posture, standing taller, sitting straighter, walking with more intention. I realized that how I carry myself physically affects how I feel internally. Even small changes in the way I hold my body changed how I felt. I felt a little stronger, a little more certain, a little more capable. Then I added daily affirmations, speaking kind words to myself, reminding myself that I am capable, that I can handle challenges, that I deserve to be heard, that I have value. Even if these words felt strange at first, even if I doubted them, I said them every day. Over time, they began to feel more natural and more true. I also began to practice speaking more, even when I felt nervous, even when my voice shook, even when I was afraid of saying something wrong. I spoke anyway. I practiced conversations in my mind. Then I practiced them out loud. I spoke to friends. I spoke to colleagues. I even spoke to strangers when I could. I knew that confidence grows through experience, not just thinking. Slowly, I began to notice changes. My fear decreased. My hesitation decreased. I felt more capable handling daily situations. I felt more willing to try new things. When I made mistakes, I did not let them crush me. I treated them as lessons, as feedback, as opportunities to grow. I realized something very important. Confidence is not about being perfect. It is not about always being right. It is not about impressing others. It is about being comfortable with yourself, even when things are not perfect, even when you make mistakes, even when you feel nervous. That comfort grows into strength. That strength grows into confidence. I also learned that confidence is built in repetition. Repetition of small actions. Repetition of facing fears. Repetition of speaking up and standing tall. repetition of saying yes to opportunities, even when it feels uncomfortable. I began to track my progress, even if informally, noticing when I acted confidently, noticing when I spoke clearly, noticing when I took action without hesitation. These small moments accumulated into a sense of competence, a sense of capability, a sense that I could handle life. I started applying this in every area of life, not just at work, not just in public speaking, but in social situations, in personal decisions, in exercising, in learning new skills. In taking care of myself physically and mentally, I realized that confidence is holistic. It touches everything in life. I also began paying attention to my daily routines. I noticed that the small habits I do every morning, like making my bed, drinking water, and preparing for the day, set the tone for my confidence. Completing simple tasks made me feel capable and in control. I experimented with different routines to see what made me feel stronger, more motivated, and more focused. I learned that even something as small as looking in the mirror and smiling at myself could make a difference. I started to notice my inner voice and realized how critical I had been toward myself for years. I was my harshest critic, and that criticism had stopped me from trying new things. I made a conscious effort to replace negative self-talk with supportive thoughts. I reminded myself that progress matters more than perfection. I reminded myself that trying and failing is better than never trying at all. I observed how my interactions with people affected my confidence. I began to pay attention to conversations, to the way I express my ideas, to the way I listen. I realized that sometimes I doubted myself because I compared myself to others. I tried to shift my focus from comparison to growth. I reminded myself that everyone has their own journey and I can focus on mine. I challenged myself to speak up in meetings, to express my opinions even when I felt nervous. At first, it was uncomfortable, but gradually I noticed that people respected my voice, and that made me feel more confident. I celebrated small wins, like sharing an idea successfully or asking a question I would have avoided before. Every small step reinforced the belief that I could handle social situations without fear. I noticed that physical exercise had a surprising effect on my confidence. When I ran, lifted weights, or practiced yoga, I felt more energetic and mentally stronger. Exercise taught me discipline, resilience, and persistence, which translated into my mental confidence. Even when I felt tired or unmotivated, pushing myself to complete a workout built trust in my own abilities. I learned that confidence is not just mental, it is embodied. When my body feels strong, my mind follows. I also experimented with learning new skills. I challenged myself to try things I had never done before, like cooking new recipes, speaking a new language, or learning basic guitar chords. Each small accomplishment, even if imperfect, built proof that I could learn, adapt, and succeed. These experiences created a strong foundation of self-belief. I reflected on failures and setbacks in a new way. Before, mistakes would crush my confidence. Now, I saw them as lessons and opportunities to improve. I asked myself what went wrong, what I could learn, and how to do better next time. I stopped taking failures personally. I realized that everyone fails sometimes, and it does not diminish their worth or ability. Accepting this allowed me to act more boldly, take risks, and grow without fear of judgment. I began to see failure as a stepping stone rather than a barrier. I also focused on my mental environment. I noticed who I spent time with, the content I consumed, and the conversations I engaged in. Surrounding myself with supportive, positive people who encouraged growth strengthened my confidence. I minimized interactions with negative influences that made me doubt myself. I started reading inspiring books, listening to podcasts, and following people who embodied confidence and resilience. This conscious curation of my environment helped me internalize confidence more quickly. Reflection became a daily habit. Each night, I reviewed my day. I thought about moments when I acted confidently, moments I hesitated, and moments I could improve. I wrote down small successes and things I was grateful for. These reflections reinforced positive behaviors and helped me identify patterns. Over time, reflection became a tool to maintain and grow confidence consistently. I also began journaling my thoughts and feelings. Writing down fears, worries, small victories, and lessons learned allowed me to externalize negative thoughts and see them from a new perspective. Journaling made me realize that my fears were often exaggerated, that doubts were temporary, and that courage is a choice. Each entry reinforced my commitment to growth, and reviewing old journals reminded me how far I had come. I practiced visualization as well. Before challenging situations, I imagined myself speaking confidently, acting calmly, and handling difficulties with composure. Visualization helped prepare my mind and body for action. I noticed that mental rehearsal made real-life situations feel more manageable and less intimidating. I embraced gratitude as part of my confidence-building process. By focusing on what I had achieved, the supportive people around me, and small positive experiences, I shifted my mindset from scarcity and fear to abundance and possibility. Gratitude reminded me that I am capable and deserving of good things. I also learned to celebrate small wins intentionally. Every time I spoke up in a meeting, finished a challenging task, or tried something new, I paused to acknowledge my achievement. These celebrations, even if brief, reinforced my sense of capability and encouraged me to continue taking bold actions. Through these daily practices, affirmations, posture, exercise, reflection, journaling, visualization, gratitude, small wins, I slowly noticed a transformation. I felt more grounded. I felt more courageous. I felt more willing to face challenges, uncertainties, and opportunities that I would have avoided before. Confidence was no longer a fleeting feeling, but a habit, a skill, a way of being that permeated my life. And so now, when I reflect on my journey, I see that building confidence in daily life is not about grand gestures. It is not about sudden changes. It is about paying attention to myself, noticing when I feel insecure, taking small, intentional actions, practicing habits that reinforce my abilities, speaking kindly to myself, standing tall, facing fears repeatedly, surrounding myself with supportive people, reflecting honestly, and applying lessons learned. Over time, these repeated small actions accumulate into real confidence that shows in how I carry myself, how I speak, how I act, and how I feel internally. Confidence will continue to grow as long as I remain consistent, as long as I remain aware, as long as I keep practicing. It is okay to feel afraid. It is okay to feel unsure. The act of moving forward, even when I feel those things, creates true confidence. The more I act in this way, the more natural confidence becomes. Eventually, I can trust myself more. I can take risks more. I can enjoy life more. I can handle challenges more effectively. Every day, I commit to taking these small steps. I commit to facing my fears. I commit to acting intentionally. I commit to speaking up. I commit to practicing habits that strengthen me. I embrace growth as a continuous journey. I remind myself that confidence is a lifelong practice, and by nurturing it daily, I shape not only my actions but my identity, my mindset, and the life I want to live. Confidence is not an endpoint, it is a path, and each step forward, no matter how small, is a victory. I am Tom, and today, I choose courage. I choose growth. I choose confidence.